we at Shrine University first want to say thank you for attending our first live stream session of 2020. We do ask that you keep yourself muted through just to be respectful of others as well as the instructor himself, and save all questions for the end of the presentation. And if you have any questions throughout the presentation, by all means, feel free to just type it in the chat, and hopefully the instructor can get after those. If not, myself as well as another counselor that's in here can just get on those questions that you guys might have. And today, Dr. Martin Lockard is the assistant professor of English, and he should be discussing some studies of the humanities at Shrine University. And by all means, please feel free to ask him any questions that might come across that you might think about in regards to just English, anything that you may need to know about it. Even if it's life at Shrine University, what he expects of the students, by all means. Hopefully we should be getting Dr. Lockard in here in a moment or two. But again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the chat my email address as well as admissions email address. That way, if you have any questions at any time, you're more than welcome to submit those questions and let us know. And if you want a fast response, the lightning fast, hopefully, you can also send a response to me, and I'll put my email address in there. But I will definitely turn this over to Dr. Lockard. That way he can take over the presentation and say whatever he wants to say about Shrine University, as well as just the English and humanities area. All yours.
All right, thanks. Let's see. Jericho, looks like you're muted there. You mind unmuting your mic?
Hello.
Hi. Good to meet you. I'm
You
Dr.
too.
Lockard. I'm an English professor here at Schreiner. This is my third year at Schreiner, so in relative terms, I'm relatively new, but I've got a pretty good lay of the land. And my understanding is that what we're really trying to do here is give you a sense of what life is like at Schreiner from the perspective of one professor, and really answer your questions above all. So let's start with hearing a little bit about you. Can you tell me a bit about yourself?
I am a transfer student coming in for fall from St. Philip's, and my current intended major is business management. I'm already hooked up with the Shriner esports program, and I'm just kind of trying to figure out my major a little bit more because I'm already almost done with all the core classes.
Okay, good. Well, that's a good position to be coming in on. What are your games?
My main game is League of Legends. Might look into Valorant. Kind of doubt it.
And what's the map behind you there?
That is Red Dead Redemption, the original.
Okay, all right, gotcha. So unrelated to your
Yes.
we've got somebody else in on the call here. Annalise, you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Annalise, and I'm a junior. I intend to go into some major of business, and I've been looking at China.
All right, fantastic. Good to meet you, Annalise. I already introduced myself, but I'm Dr. Lockard. I teach in the English department here at Schreiner. It's my third year here. And, oh, we've got another person jumping on here. Can you go ahead and unmute yourself?
Hello.
Hi. Can you introduce yourself to everybody?
Hi, I'm Christian Caldwell. I'm from San Antonio, Texas, and I'm planning on going to Schreiner next year. So.
And Christian, do you have any sense of which direction you're inclining towards in terms of majors?
I think I'm going to be a finance major or something with finance.
Okay, all right. And are you going to play basketball for Schreiner, or are you mostly a fan?
No, I'm planning on playing basketball for Schreiner. So.
All right, fantastic. James, do you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, I'm James Miller.
Go ahead.
Oh,
can you tell us a little about yourself?
Incoming freshman for fall. I'm looking into going into business management, and I'm from Connecticut, so coming to Schreiner, was really exciting for me. Quite the distance, but yeah, can't wait.
So what's bringing you down from New England other than the horrible weather?
um, I do a lot of work in Texas in the summers, and I was in Kerrville, and I had to actually visit a college for school. I had to, and I went to Shriner, and I fell in love with it. So I decided.
That's fantastic. I'm happy to hear that. All right. We have enough of us here. I'd really prefer, rather than me just spouting at you about my ideas about Shriner and all that, I'd like to be able to field some of your questions. I like to think of this as kind of the candor committee, where you should feel free to ask any questions that you want, and I'll try to be as candid as I can in my responses to those questions, whether they're about the academic side of the school or really anything else. So I'm going to invite you guys to just jump in with your questions.
That's where you can jump in with a question and ask about how's the food at Shriner? What is it like? The random anything.
Yeah, you might be better suited to answer that than I am.
So questions you guys might have, and I know when I was looking through high school, kind of that transition of senior year to, okay, I'm looking for colleges, what am I looking for? And I know me being a transfer student, at first I wanted that big school experience. So I was looking at larger schools that had classrooms that were 70 to 80, 90 students sitting in an auditorium. And I remember when I was attending my first couple classes there, I realized as I was, sitting in the middle back area, I was having to raise my hand and try to get in contact or try to reach out to the instructor. And he's already moving on, or she's moving on to the next, slide or the next step. And that's something I didn't really enjoy. And that's where I try to ask, like, what is it that you look for in a college? What are you looking for in a college right now? And whoever wants to start taking that on, it's open up to discussion. Is like, Jericho, what were you looking for when you first started looking into schools?
I think my situation was a little bit more unique because instead of looking for a major or something in the classes, I was just trying to get through school through community college. And then I found the sports program at Shriner, and that's kind of what drew me in.
Definitely. What about you, Annalise? Hopefully I'm saying your name right.
It's Annalise.
Annalise, sorry.
It's fine. People do it all the time. Well, ever since I was pretty young, I knew I wanted to go to a college in Texas. My mom's from Texas, and all she has is good things to say about it. And so when I was younger, I always had wanted to go to Baylor. Mm-hmm. But then we moved here a year and a half ago, and I got to go visit Shriner, and I fell in love with it. I saw how small you guys are, and I love that small feeling. It really makes it feel more family and friend connected, and you get to know people, and it's more of the experience. And so that's where Shriner got me.
Awesome. Good to hear. I like that. What about you, Christian?
I hadn't heard about Shriner until like the beginning of my the summer before senior year. And the coach reached out to me, and that's how I got introduced to Shriner. And so I was interested in it, and I toured it, and I actually really liked the tour. I had the same feeling that it's small, it's more about the experience, and that I really liked it. I really enjoyed the tour, and I got to see the dorms. And the only thing I didn't get to do was the mock classroom, which was kind of why I wanted to get on the Zoom to feel like teachers, or how they interact with us. So
definitely,
I'm really interested. I'm excited.
Good deal. And I believe, James, you've been traveling here for work and just really getting to know it more or less.
Yeah, the only thing originally I thought I was definitely going far for college, just to kind of expand myself, I guess.
Yeah.
But originally, I was looking for a huge school. I was talking to people at Texas A&M. I was kind of leaning towards the bigger school thing, and I didn't think for a second that Shriner would be the right fit for me, because I was oh, it's a wicked small school, this and that. And then once I was there and learning like how important, to me at least, I know like the way I work, a small school is, and like really knowing your professors, especially going into something like business management, it'd be helpful like for more one-on-one instead of like a broad lesson. So that kind of drew me in.
Definitely, definitely. If anything, you practically, you got my speech right there. You know everything that I always say. But if anything, I know Dr. Lockard can speak from his own experience as being an instructor, and I'm not trying to put him on the spot with this one, but just going back to when I was a transfer student, I was looking at a big class and I was sitting in those big classrooms. But being here at Schreiner, he can really attest to, and I can attest to, is the small classrooms. And I'm willing to bet for Dr. Lockard is that what's the size of a normal classroom in your class?
I'd say my average class size is probably 15 people.
Exactly.
So and I've had some, especially upper level majors classes that are closer to 10 people. So these are concentrated small classes for the most part, and I'm glad to hear that a lot of you have put a lot of thought into the kind of institution where you're going to flourish, because I've had a lot of conversations with students who are looking at colleges, and whether they're kids of friends of mine or what have you. And a lot of times people think, well, I'll go to UT or I'll go to A&M. Ask them, well, why? Because I've heard of it. Because it's on the radar. It's there somewhere. Now, don't get me wrong. I did my doctoral work at the University of Texas. I love the University of Texas. And even when I go to visit Aggie Land, that's not an entirely unpleasant experience. But the issue is that as an instructor at UT, as a teacher there, I didn't know any of my students. Even among English majors who I'd be working with, one semester I'd have one batch of students, and then the next semester I'd get maybe one or two who wanted to follow me to another class, and they were looking for classes I was teaching in particular. But for the most part, I had just a whole new batch of students, and I saw them for a semester, and then they were gone. Now, there are two major issues with this. One, you don't get real sort of tailored instruction over the course of your major in particular. If you have a handful of professors in your major and you know them all personally and you've been in their classes, they know you and they know what you've taken and they know who you've taken it from. And they have a much clearer expectation of what you know, what you don't know, what strength they can build on. One of the issues I had at UT is that every time I got a fresh batch of students, it was like starting all over. I had no idea who they were. They had no idea who I was. I didn't know anything about their academic or intellectual background. It really was tricky. The other issue was they didn't know each other. And I found that was especially difficult, that they didn't have those collegial bonds between students that you need if you want to have a really successful educational experience. So I'm glad you all are taking that seriously. I do think it's something that you need to keep in mind when you're looking at a place you're going to spend, between 3 or 4 years of your life. You've got to be serious about that decision. So I'm glad you've put some thought into that. Now, in terms of the actual experience in the classroom, one of the things you'll know right away when you step into a Schreiner classroom, well, not right away, because, everybody's still trying to kind of be cool and they'll hang back a little bit, but you'll notice pretty quickly that most people know each other. Right? Most people have had a class with somebody in the past, so there's already a little bit of chemistry there. And most people will have had a class with the professor. They'll certainly know somebody who's had a class with the professor. And it's kind of a fun pastime between classes to say, oh, you got a class with Lockard? Oh, sorry. Good luck. There are those shared educational experiences that everybody has in common. And that's one of the things that drew me to come and teach at Shriners. And I'm a big believer in that, as you can tell. And it's one of the things that my students say to me repeatedly, informally and in advising and in class surveys, that they're benefiting from that that's what's keeping them on board, that's what's keeping them focused, and that they're getting the kind of individualized mentoring that they wouldn't be able to get anywhere else. So from my perspective, those are some of the major benefits you get from being at a place like Shriner. And I'll give you one concrete example. As you can tell, I like the sound of my own voice a little bit, so I'm going to try to shut myself down here in a minute. It comes from being a teacher, right? One concrete example of how this just plays out in everyday life. We're all in a really strange situation right now. This switch over to online teaching because of the coronavirus has thrown a lot of people for a loop. And over the past couple of weeks, I can speak for myself, and I know from speaking to my colleagues that they've had a similar experience. One of the things we've noticed is you've got the occasional student. Let's say you've got 18 people in a class. Maybe 2 or 3 of them have just fallen off the radar that first week or so of online classes. You know what I would have done at UT? Because I had similar experiences when I saw a student floundering and failing. I'd say, guess they don't belong in college. Don't need to worry about that person. Because that was very much the attitude. Here, there's a totally different attitude. The feeling is if somebody's slipping, you need to reach out to them. You need to bring them back on board. They've still got to do all the work. They've still got to put in the hard work and get it done. But the ethos among teachers at Shriner is that we're here to help build better people. And we're here to be that connection with our students that they need to be truly successful. So I know, I'd say 2 weeks ago, I probably spent a solid 3 hours on the phone just reaching out to students who were clearly struggling with the transition. And sure enough, there were, I'd say 50% of those were facing some pretty serious obstacles in terms of getting their work done, in terms of accessing the things they needed to. And we were able to talk through that. And most of those students have really gotten back on track at this point. I bring that up as a specific example of how the educational experience in general is very different here compared to other places. And a lot of it has to do with that relationship between professors and students. There's my sort of characterization of education at Shriner in a nutshell. But like I said, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, definitely. I even to go on that and to add some more to it. I know I like to share my story, and it's not something I'm going to have you hear again, like a 3-hour long Marvel movie. And, we find out what happens to Iron Man, but I'm not going to spoil it. Not today. I know when it comes to being and having that one-on-one interaction, I know I was there my senior year at Shriner for my undergrad, and I was sitting in an organic chem class, and it was maybe the last semester of my senior year, first week, or actually second week, and I remember looking at my grades, and I wasn't doing great. I wasn't really doing great at all, and I will admit that and be honest about it. And I remember I actually reached out to my instructor because I felt like something was going on, and I really wanted to pass the class. I was worried about graduating. I was worried about walking that stage. And I remember my instructor looking in my eyes and said, it's going to be okay. I'm going to help you out every step of the way. And I remember that phrase to this day. And I know I've been rhyming right now, but I remember that phrase. And before I knew it, my instructor actually got me in contact with a peer tutor. I remember his name to this day because his name is Daniel, and he helped me out phenomenally. And I remember I had a C in that class. And before I knew it, I was actually crossing and walking that stage, capping down, head held high. And I was actually crossing that stage with a solid A in that class by the time I was walking across the stage. And the only worry that I had as I was walking across was making sure that I wasn't like blinking and whatnot as soon as my mom or dad was like taking the picture, graduation photos, which I really absolutely enjoyed. And I say my dad taking the photos, but I gotta retract that statement. My dad wouldn't have been taking the photos because he was actually right behind me as we were walking for graduation for both degrees of both bachelor's and master's. So it's a funny little interesting story I like to say when I say I rubbed elbows with my dad during class because he was literally right beside me taking my bachelor's, or taking the bachelor's with me as well as the master's with me as well. So it's really what I gained from Shriner was that it's really personalized. It is what you make it out to be. If you feel like you are slipping in any way, reach out to the instructors because they're there to help you out. They don't see you as just another number. They don't see you as a walking statistic. They don't see you as a walking just overall grade. They really want you to be successful here, if not somewhere else in life. And one other story I also like to share is that some of the instructors I've always seen, or some of the instructors I've only been able to see because I've only heard, there's other stories I've heard of, but other instructors helping out other students. But they were actually able to go, okay, I got my undergrad here at Schreiner, but I want to get my graduate degree somewhere else. And there are connections that they can make with you, whether it's at UT or A&M in the business area, and they will get in contact with those individuals and set up times for you to meet with that contact to talk and say, hey, you know what, I'm looking into this law degree. I already got my undergrad. I'm looking into a law degree at UT. Do you know anybody over there that I could possibly talk to? And before you know it, they have you connected, and they're willing to help you out every step of the way. I remember there's one time for me that I had my undergrad instructor, Dr. Distel. I know he's a person there. He's still there. Absolutely enjoy him to a T. Remember, I graduated in 2015, my undergrad. I can still reach out to Dr. Distel. I can give him a call on my phone. I'm willing to bet I still have his number in there. And I give him a call. He always answers, and he's like, hey, Mike, how's it going? My first thing is that my jaw hits the floor because I'm thinking, why do you still have my number saved in your phone? Like, it blows my mind all the time. But he's always there, willing to help. And sometimes I even like to do side projects with Parks and Rec. That's a little passion of mine, is environmental sciences. And I say, hey, is there something I can help out with Parks and Rec over there? Because I'm just curious. And he goes, you know what? Let me get you in contact with someone. I know this person. I'm just going to use an example name like Susan. I'll get you in contact with Susan. So don't worry. We'll see what we can get put together. So that's just one of those combinations of, it's a personalized attention that Schreiner really gave to me that I didn't expect and absolutely love. And that's just something I will attest to all day, every day, no problem. But definitely, if you guys have any questions, again, whether it's about Schreiner Life, what are the activities to do at Schreiner, whether it's hiking, fishing, running, ultimate frisbee, if you're into weightlifting or basketball, or if you're like, you know what, I don't like any of that. I don't think just do art and music, definitely, or even e-games. I know I have a passion for playing some games online here and there, but mine is Elder Scrolls. I'll admit that, but don't tell anybody too much about that. But definitely, if you have any questions at any time, I even put it in the chat. And I know there's some people from a previous live stream session. I put my email in the chat as well as admissions. You guys are more than welcome to ask any questions you have, whether it's where am I at in the admissions process? Do I have any documents I still need to submit? What do I need to do? Financial aid, any of that sort of stuff. Even living in learning communities. How can I maximize my scholarships, or even where can I find more scholarships? Because now I have a lot of time. I'm tired of watching paint dry. Can't get any drier now, but definitely you're more than welcome to reach out at any time you want to. Sound good? Okay, sounds good. So do you all have any questions that come to mind as of right now, even if it's for Dr. Lockard? And I know we talked about classroom size, but if there's any type of requirements or just, I guess, English degrees or anything of that nature? No question?
So I'm gonna jump in, Mike, and give y'all a couple things to think about here. So these are just things to meditate on, since it's been rightly pointed out that we've got some time on our hands here. I'd like you to be thinking about a couple of things, and this is again one of the benefits of being at Schreiner is that your advising is going to happen one-on-one with a full-time professor. They're not going to send you to some computer program to advise you and tell you which courses to take or anything like that. You'll actually have sit-down advising sessions. I just got done 2 weeks ago doing Skype advising sessions with every single one of my advisees to try to work with them not just on which classes am I taking next semester, but also what are my larger long-term goals and how am I going to get there. Here are two things I want you to have in the back of your mind as you're thinking about a potential transition to Schreiner. One, what's your minor? People will always ask you, what's your major? What are you thinking about majoring in? That's the first question anybody's going to ask you when you talk to them about college. And it's a good question. It's an important one, but it's not the only one. Your minor is a really important aspect of your education. If you go to a school like Schreiner and you're not getting a minor, you're really missing out. It's not a lot of extra work. In fact, most of the degrees at Schreiner have been specifically designed so that there is plenty of room within your electives to commit the typically 18 credit hours you would need to get a minor in any other field. So whatever it is that you think you're majoring in right now, that's great. What I want you to spend some time reflecting on is your options in terms of minors and how those minors might speak to something that perhaps you're passionate about, something that you are interested in but think you want to know more about. Start building that into your thinking about your education, because there's no reason whatsoever to come to college and just get that one credential. You can spend the same amount of time in college, take the same number of credit hours, and leave with both of those credentials, the major and the minor. So please keep that minor in mind. Be thinking about it. If you have questions about that, you can always reach out to me directly. I'm fine with that. And I'll do whatever I can to answer those questions. So that's one thing. The other thing is start thinking about summer travel and study abroad. Schreiner offers some really fantastic opportunities for that. Not this summer, unfortunately, for obvious reasons, but we usually do. Just last summer, I took a group of 9 students over to Ireland. These are mostly English majors, but some non-English majors as well. And we spent about 2 weeks in Ireland studying Irish literature and specifically the poetry of W.B. Yeats, and traveling around the country, seeing some of the amazing sights. And we attended the annual W.B. Yeats summer school that had some of the greatest Yeats scholars in the world, amazing poets. The National Poet of Ireland was there. A truly transformative experience. And there are all kinds of opportunities like that. There is a business class program specifically in Florence. I know we have some business people here. And the wonderful Professor Jay McCormick runs that. And that's a really amazing program. So as you're thinking about what your future looks like at Schreiner because again, I'm here to talk about the academic side, right? If you want to talk about extracurriculars or something, you'll probably talk to somebody else. But on the academic side, I want you to think about the minor that's going to best complement your major and round out your educational experience. And I want you to think about those possibilities for summer study abroad, because that's one of those things that if you don't plan for it, the next thing you know, it'll be your senior year and you'll have never done anything. And that would be too bad. If you do plan for it, if you do make that part of your long-term plan, then maybe you'll say, okay, that summer after junior year, that's going to be the summer when I go and do study abroad. And if you have that plan in mind going into it, you can start looking at your options in advance and really find one of those amazing transformative experiences that I think every student at Schreiner should be participating in. So I think that's it from me.
Yeah. If that's it, then we just want to say thank you again for everybody that's joining the Schreiner live stream. If you have any questions, again, even if it's 10 minutes after this live stream or an hour or even during the weekend, you think of a question, I say there's no silly questions. You're more than welcome to ask whatever you want, and we will definitely try to figure something out for you. You can just use the emails that I have provided in the chat. There should be the admissions one as well as one that directly connects you to me. If I don't answer, one of the admissions counselors will definitely reach out to you and give you a response. Again, we're just here to help you out every step of the way to hopefully get you to become a future Schreiner University Mountaineer. So again, that just concludes our live stream. If Dr. Lockard doesn't have anything else to add to it, then I just hope you all have a great rest of the day, okay?
Okay.
All right, you have a good one.
Good to meet you all.
Take it easy.